background. Da, da, da. Okay, it says that it is doing something, so I think we might be live on YouTube. Hello, everybody. I'll just wait until it pops up, just in case they catch half a conversation. Background. Da, da, da. Okay, we
I
are.
see us.
I turned us down. Okay, are we in gallery?
Yep.
Hello, YouTube.
Yay! We
That was
did it!
way slicker. It's getting better. Every week we seem to be getting a little bit slicker. Well, I am because I'm in control of these controls for a change. It's usually Monica streamlining it all beautifully. Okay, so welcome everybody. If anyone's watching live, welcome to Wellness Wednesday with me and Monica. Brief intro to these little conversations we're doing every Wednesday. It's for our own kind of growth as well and expansion. This is for my confidence to go live. So it's lovely to have these conversations with Monica because we are talking everything wellness. We've focused the last 3 weeks on the pineal gland. I'm a yoga teacher, yoga therapist, sound healing practitioner. I used to work for Big Pharma, so I have gone 360 with the science background, science degree, and then I have seen the light, managed to peel myself away from the corporate world and focus on what my soul actually wants to do. So I was lucky enough to have the backing from my amazing husband, let's be honest, because if it wasn't for him, I probably would still be stuck in corporate potentially. So we had the children, and then I didn't have to go back to that corporate world I did go back actually after the second child, but it didn't last long. There's just so much travel. I was so tired. And it was that moment of nearly being a bit too close to a lorry on the motorway and kind of dropping off for a split second and waking up and going, what am I doing? What am I actually doing? And that was the moment that I got home and I said, it's just dangerous. I'm driving 5 hours to send sandwiches to nurses and having a lovely chat for like half an hour of my life and then drive all the way back again. I realized I was turning into a glorified caterer to bribe them to prescribe drugs that I didn't even care about. Oh, it went full circle. Yeah,
Ooh.
so that was my moment of it was a proper wake up because I literally fell asleep and woke up quite close to a lorry. And I carried on for a little bit. I didn't travel quite as far and then manifested the opportunity to just go stop and go into more yoga teaching, which I was doing at the same time as well, but I managed to funnel a lot more energy into that, which is what has kind of brought me here. There's little steps all the time to kind of increase my wellness, and the more wellness practices that I do, the more doors that open up to me, to more opportunities, to more people I meet, more synchronicities. It just is so lovely when it all starts to flow, because when you're fighting against your soul's purpose, and it takes something like that to wake you up. So that's my little story. So we wanted to share more wellness things and the journey that Monica and I have taken. And I'll pass you over to the lovely Monica to do a brief intro as well.
Oh, thank you. So, full circle, I would have been one of those nurses receiving sandwiches from Ashley. And I did that, I did that thing. And I was a bedside nurse for about a decade. And I realized that I was no longer desiring to be a drug pusher. I mean, I really was a legal drug dealer, pushing narcotics every single day. That was the majority of the time that I spent as a bedside nurse, was passing out narcotics. It was like, okay, one round of meds, and then what's the next round of meds, and witnessing, like, what's the flavor of the month, or
Yeah,
what's the flavor of the quarter, because
I was giving
yes,
flavor.
yeah, this is so interesting because, I would watch the doctors rotate pain meds based on what was being pushed by the pharmaceutical reps at that time.
And also
So,
who bought the best sandwiches. I used to go to Marks and Spencer's. It's one of the like a higher class shops here, and I would always shop there because I always got comments that I bought the best lunch, which meant I got more appointments, which meant more likely to prescribe my drugs. It's just mind blowing.
that's so interesting. This is a great conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing too that they would do is, so I was a bone marrow transplant nurse for the first half of my career, and we administered chemotherapy, like the sickest of the sick. It was systemic, very, very systemic cancers, very sick patients, long stays, like 6 to 8 weeks. And I went to the morgue more times than I care to even review. But what they would do, what the reps would do, is they would take us to the steakhouse. They would take us to the high end steakhouse and drop thousands of dollars for the whole unit. The nurses would come, the doctors would come, and they would sell us on a chemotherapy that had less than a 10% efficacy rate. And like they were excited about that. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, like, am I in the twilight zone? What is happening right now? How is this okay?
Yeah.
I didn't go to many of those because it felt wrong in my soul. But they
Yeah.
did them all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I don't think it's allowed anymore
I don't think it is
as
either.
much. But when
Mm-hmm.
I started with Roche Pharmaceuticals back in 2003. So I was only 23, like straight into corporate, company car. Oh, I was living the life, felt like tottering around in my heels, feeling like really corporate and cool. And I enjoyed it to the point that I didn't have to sit in an office. I did biomedical science, but I didn't want to be a lab technician. I didn't want to wear a white coat. I didn't want to sit testing stuff 9 to 5 in a grubby clinical laboratory. So lots of my friends who did the degree with me went down that route, and it wasn't planned. It just sort of happened. I was offered this job and blah blah blah, and it just kind of happened. Anyway, it opened my eyes massively. It was really interesting, and and back then I had targets on how many evening meetings I did. And this is me at 23 having a target to do 2 evening meetings a week, and with random doctors who brought their partners, and I kind of encouraged them to bring their partners, so I wasn't there having dinner with a load of male doctors. It's just so weird to think back that I did that. And I used to share it with other reps, and we'd split the cost so that we weren't on our own, because that's kind of freaky as well. We tried to encourage the nurses to come out, but they were less likely because they were at home with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds stereotypical, but that was what they said, can't do evening meetings. So that's why all the lunchtime meetings were mostly with the nurses.
Mm-hmm.
But the evening meetings, and they talk among themselves. We were literally there just to pick up the bill. You try to engage, you try to kind of talk about the products, but technically you're just there to build relationships, not necessarily to talk about the drugs that you're selling. I used to sell pain meds as well in the hospital. And it's so weird to think back and reflect on the conversations that I had. But it was that job that opened my mind to realize that medical professionals don't know everything, and I had them on a pedestal. I really did, because they're in a position where they have the opportunity to save lives and help people, and most nurses and doctors go into that role to genuinely help people, but they're stuck in a system that is controlled without them realizing that the
Yep.
pharmaceutical company basically runs the show. It
Yeah.
the medical training is all sponsored by pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, everything is sponsored, and until you realize that, and I was genuinely there to educate them to in the new products, because there's no way you can keep track of all the products either, because there's new drugs all the time. And all my focus is selling, overcoming objections and selling against competitors, and that was the
Yeah.
goal. And you just look back and go, hang on, where is the patient involved in this? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're using that, so now why don't you use that because this one's better? How about health and wellness, and spending money on actually empowering people to take control? It's so easy to go, oh no, I'll go to the doctors, and you just lose yourself, and you just get told what to do, and it's so easy just to go, okay, yes, you know everything, but actually the reality is they don't know everything, and only you know you and what's good for you, which kind of gives us that whole circle back to the pineal gland, because that is your root, your seat of your soul, to tell you what your body needs in this present moment. And
Yeah.
that's kind of
Mm.
why we wanted to have these lovely conversations, because it changes all the time. We hadn't really planned this conversation either.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah. Well, what comes up for me too is thinking of the fact that so many of us who are on like mission feel like we know that we're mission souls. We know that there's something deeper that we're here to do, where, we've intentionally put ourselves in those situations so that we can understand the inner workings of that and then like deconstruct it,
yeah.
really. Either you stay within the system and you keep kind of zombieing along,
Or
or you break
fighting
out of.
it. I've got so many friends who are doctors and nurses, and they're just fighting the system and feeling frustrated on a daily basis. I was like, you
Yeah.
can't fight within the system. It's too, it's just too big.
It is. It's such a huge conflict of interest, isn't it?
Hmm.
And I look back at my experience as a nurse and I remember, well, when I went to nursing school with the intention of like changing the system from within.
Yeah.
Like I knew, I was a massage therapist, an esthetician, I was doing energy healing. I had been a healer all my life. We talked about our childhood, like that seed, it was always there,
Yeah.
that knowing. And then when I went in, I wanted to like be a holistic nurse out the gate, but I'm also in like the Midwestern United States where it's still, all of that is still very up and coming.
Hmm.
And when I went into the hospital, it's interesting because there was a nurse overage. There was like a surplus, which I don't know that that'll ever happen again. And I had to go into the field of nursing that was available. I wasn't able to pick and choose. And
Okay.
so I ended up, when I was doing my clinical, wherever they placed me for my clinical, that's where I ended up, because that unit knew I was good. They knew I was smart, and I knew they would keep me. And it's so ironic because it was like the sickest of the sickest cancer patients that were getting like the harshest chemotherapies and bone marrow transplants. Like it was the complete opposite end of the spectrum of
Yeah.
where I
That's
wanted to
so
be.
heavy.
Oh my gosh, but it also lit a fire underneath me. I feel like if I would have gone to the place where I thought I was meant to be, I would have maybe become complacent,
Hmm.
or ended up more in like the beauty side, like aesthetic nursing, something like that. And I never hung chemotherapy, Ashley. It's like God knew I couldn't handle that. I just kept nursing babies. I would have a baby, nurse, keep nursing, keep nursing. You couldn't hang chemotherapy
Can
as
you
a nursing.
explain for those that don't know what hang chemotherapy means?
Okay, so when like literally hanging chemotherapy. So when someone has a dose of chemotherapy, it typically will be through the IV, and you have to go through a central line because it will burn up your regular veins. So it's got to
Okay.
go like deep into the
So,
heart. Okay. And so what happens is you take that bag of chemotherapy, you go through the process of scanning it and verifying it, and you're touching it. And so, because you're touching it, and because there's always a possibility of spill, when you hang it, when you jab the bag and you put it into the, patient's IV, there are all these times where you could potentially have a spill. This way, you cannot hang it when you're nursing a baby because it will absorb through your skin.
yeah.
So, administering chemotherapy, that's what I mean by it's literally you're hanging a bag of chemotherapy that's going to go in through a central line deep into one of the main arteries of the heart, because otherwise, like I said, it will burn up your peripheral veins. You see like an IV in the hand or an IV in the wrist or the top of the arm. You can't do that. Um, and
It must still
I,
burn the insides, right?
oh, of course, absolutely. There's just gotta be more, substance there that you don't burn through the vein.
Gosh,
Yeah, burn the brain, burn the arteries. I mean, it's
blitz it.
so toxic. And what I actually witnessed there that really lit a fire underneath me is um I saw so many people come through that I absolutely believe died quicker because of the treatment as opposed to even just allowing the disease to take its course.
Yep.
And I still have a lot of healing to do around witnessing. I mean, I was at the morgue constantly,
Well, quite a lot. Well,
constantly.
there's plenty of studies and information, isn't there, regarding that people don't die of cancer, they die with it, and they die of the treatment. It's horrible to say that out loud because there's if you're in the medical, if you're looking down like the medical route. I want to say route because I'm talking to you. Route, you know what I mean? um, your options are tiny. Like they don't necessarily offer you anything else other than chemotherapy.
No,
Whereas
you're right.
if you look in the holistic way, which, don't go there, you are mad to look there, but actually, are we? There are so many other options, and it's fascinating to hear the just all the amazing stories, how people have healed themselves without any chemotherapy or in combination with.
Yep.
It is fascinating. So there, and I find it really positive to hear and try and search for as many of those stories as possible because it just opens more doors of
Yeah.
opportunity. And
Yeah.
once you believe it, you are in
Hmm.
control of your whole system with how you think. And the major thing that blocks your pineal gland is fluoride, fear, and pharma.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh,
like
fluoride, fear, and pharma.
yeah,
And
it's like
so,
the
and
toxic trifecta to block
yeah,
your
and
intuition.
there's such a conflict of interest among doctors because like I was the holistic nurse on the floor. They
Hmm.
knew that about me. And there was a level of fear that came with that because I was absolutely like scoffed at.
Yeah.
Like we implemented some aromatherapy. I was so confused by the diet because like they didn't do any dietary education at all.
Your food is gross,
Um,
isn't it?
yeah, like, and now let's talk about water.
Tap water in hospital.
The like the number one change that you can make to support your body to move through a healing process, to put your body into homeostasis so it can innately do what it needs to do, is through water.
Yeah. And what do they do in Japan?
One out of six homes, one out of six homes drink Kangen water,
Yeah. And
structured
even but the
water. The
hospitals as well,
hospitals,
isn't it? That
yeah, the
it's medical
hospitals
grade
use
water.
structured water. Like
And
they're
we want to know
so
why they live over 100. Like, I think the
the
late,
land of the immortals.
yeah,
That's what
they've
it's
got more
called.
centurions than any other country in the world. And I
Yeah,
find that fascinating. And
fascinating.
surely, they're drinking ionized water, electrolyzed, reduced water. It's medical grade, it's in the hospitals. They're healing people before birth and after birth and supporting people who have lost a lot of fluid with actual proper hydration. And it's not woo woo, is it? It's fact. And I don't know why we don't talk about it more. And our hospitals are just they're they're not healthcare, they're sick care.
Yeah.
They call themselves healthcare. There's nothing healthy about a hospital. In the olden days, I've seen pictures of all the beds on like balconies on the roofs where they used to take patients outside in the sun because the sun is so healing. Whereas here in the UK, it's probably the same everywhere. They're in clinical, horrible places with grubby curtains, with hardly
Grubby
any light
curtains.
in. Oh my God. And it just smells of bleach.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, Florence Nightingale, she's like the mother of nursing, she's rolling in her grave,
Yeah,
you know? Okay, so next week, what if next week we talk about how they're actually using this structured water in hospitals?
perfect. Yeah, let's
What if
do
we talk
something.
about that and like the clash between pharmacy and that? Like what did they replace? Which they didn't really replace it, but let's say hypothetically we were going to bring these machines into hospitals in the UK and the United States, what would they replace with it? Well, that would be a fun conversation.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that
Let's
because
do that.
ultimately what you're talking about is with chemotherapy and having your body, you need to have some sort of balance, right? And your body can't come into balance if it's constantly pumped with acid. It's acidic. Tap water is, and it's full of rubbish. And ultimately, we'll share more about the water and how it just brings your body back to balance and ease, hydration, so that your body can actually do what it's meant to do. And your body constantly wants to heal itself, and it's so bombarded by all sorts of crap. I don't know why I said that quietly. That it just can't do what it's meant to do because it's constantly trying to deal with the new stuff and then the new stuff and then some more stuff comes in and then it's trying to deal with more and it's just your body's exhausted. No wonder everyone's tired and got brain fog.
Yeah,
The
seriously.
It's
Seriously.
yeah. Oh, how exciting! Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. So come back and listen to us share more about how we're going to change the system.
That's right. Let's go. Oh, thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a
Oh,
beautiful rest of your day.
yeah, lovely. Okay, we'll see you next week, everybody. Oh, and pop in the comments about what we've talked about. If you want to share any of your experiences, who you are, where you're from, and any questions for us to cover next week. All right, I will stop the stream and we will see you.